In this video, we will be creating an NFT game using Moralis. This is how it will look like. As you can see, I have login button, logout button, and in the console, I have to log in with Metamask. So I log in, I accept with my Metamask, I get my character, I can move left, right, I can jump. We have physics in the game, so that if I fall off this cliff, I jump down. So if you just follow along, you watch this video until the end, you will be able to do this step by step. No editing in this video. And by the way, in the next video, I will also show you how to add more players to this, because now it's only one player. But if you watch the next video, which will come out on this channel soon, we will add more players. And so this is basically the only channel that will teach you how to create online multiplayer NFT games. That's why you subscribe and you keep a close eye on this channel. Also, join our Discord, guys. We do have a Discord called Moralis DAO. You can find it here, and you can find it, by the way, using the link below. But in Moralis DAO right here, we can chat about all developments, all programming, all game development, where I can also help you in more detail. So guys, if you enjoy, let's start very quickly. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to create an NFT game from scratch, and we're doing this as part of the Aavegotchi game jam, because you know that if you participate in the Aavegotchi game jam, you can win up to $6,000. We're sponsoring this hackathon. I'm, by the way, one of the judges also. And if you come first, you can win 3K as general prize, and if you use Moralis, you can get additional 3K if you come first. So altogether, it's 6K. And the simplest way to build a game using Aavegotchis, because you know that Aavegotchi is an NFT project. And so if you want to participate in this hackathon, in this game jam, you can use the link below and register. And your task is to build some kind of game using their NFTs. So the user logs in, the user can see the NFTs that they own from Aavegotchis, and they can play around. That is the goal. That is what we want to achieve. And the best way and the fastest way to achieve this is by using Moralis, because Moralis is really built for this NFT use cases, real-time gaming use cases. Moralis is amazing for that, as you will soon see and as you will soon experience. So the first thing we have to do is to start a Moralis account. So you can just go to moralis.io, you can sign up, and then when you log in, you go to servers, create a new server, select testnet. In this case, we will be building on the ETH Kovan testnet. Why? Because Aavegotchi test NFTs are on Kovan. So select Kovan, launch your server. In this case, this is my server. And then click on view details. You will see application ID, server URL, and master key, and a few other details. The most important thing here is server URL and application ID. That we will be using very, very soon. So that's number one. Next, go to docs.moralis.io, go to getting started, go to boilerplate projects, select vanilla boilerplate, which is right here, and you see the index.html file. Copy all the contents that are in here and paste them into your HTML file where you will be building this. So let me close all other tabs. I don't want to save this. So I have this file right here, index.html, that I've created, and I will be using this for this game. And as you can see, it's a very simple file. It includes some libraries, Moralis library, Web3 library. It sets up a login button, logout button. It needs app ID and server URL. And as you remember, we just created that. So let's copy server URL, paste it here. Let's copy app ID and paste it here. And as you can see, we have simple login, logout logic, and the buttons are hooked to the login, logout code. So now if I refresh this and I open up the console and I log in, and I use now my Metamask to log in, I sign in. As you can see, I have the user printed with the user ID, and this is the account I'm using, 0x5e. And then if you go to the dashboard, you will see something interesting. If you go to user, you see that we have a user here, and this is the user that I just logged in with. As you can see, I have the address right here, and I see the time at which I registered, and I see my ETH address right here. and so on and so forth. If we want, we can add email to this user. We can add more fields to this user. I see the ETH balance. In this case, my balance is 0, as you can see. So the balance is 0. I do see that I have one Aavegotchi already. So this is already in my database. I don't have to do anything. And indeed, this address does have an Aavegotchi. And we can go and check that by going to Kovan and looking into this address. As you can see, if I go to ERC71 token transactions, there is an Aavegotchi. So that means that Moralis has all the info about this user and the user's on-chain activity that I need. Perfect. Now, let's put the blockchain part aside for a bit, because a big part of the actual project is the graphics, is the game. And blockchain is very easy because Moralis makes it very easy for you. That's the advantage of using Moralis, that the whole blockchain part, which is normally very complex, for example, getting all this data we just got without doing anything in the database, it's normally very complex, but with Moralis, you don't even have to care. So the next step for us is to get the Phaser library installed, and you can just Google Phaser CDN, and then you can take the first Phaser CDN link, and CDN is that it's, you can just copy a link like this, and then you can go to your website and you can say script source equal to this, or actually, yeah, we already copied that. So like this, let's save that. And with this library, with this Phaser library, we can actually do the graphics, because Phaser is a graphics library and it's very, very good. Especially if you use it with Moralis, it's so amazing. Because Moralis and Phaser, they're meant to be used together. Moralis is really optimized for graphics, for NFC games, for all of these great use cases that we're dealing with here. So we just included it into our website. So we save it. And when I open the website and I reload, nothing happens, but that's also expected because we don't have anything. But you can see that if I type Phaser in the console, we have some things. We have some functionality here that we can use. And so what is the mindset? Because look, I'm not a professional game developer, but I'm a developer, which means that I can make games. I can make games even if I'm not a professional game developer. But when I'm using a library like Phaser, just like you are, and you're new, you need to learn. So how do you learn? It's very easy. You go to learn here on phaser.io and you see some examples making our first game. Let's make our first game. Let's do it in English. So as you can see, we need this config. And by the way, this is how you learn anything in programming. You just go to a tutorial, you copy the code, and you're ready to go. So as you can see here, we're doing some configuration. We're starting a new game with that configuration, and then we have the game loop. So this is very important, and because I've made games in the past, I know how this works. But a game is basically just a bunch of frames. What does it mean? It means that each and every second, 60 times per second, you have the opportunity to move around things on the screen. So this update function that we just copied, which is empty, this will be called 60 times per second. And this is how games give you the illusion of movement. That if you have a picture and you can change the position of it 60 times per second, you can make it appear that it's smoothly moving in some direction. But in reality, you just move it. You just change the position each and every 60 seconds, but if it's smooth and if you have these updates often, it looks smooth. So this is what we call a game loop. That game loop is this function that gets called 6 times per second. Here you have your logic. What do you want to do every time this is called? Do you want to check if this player is hitting a wall? Do you want to check whether a bullet is being hit, but if a player is being hit by a bullet? Okay, if that is the case, how do we decrease the health? So here's where you do all of this logic. What happens in game? Basically, each and every each and every frame, we check that. And we have 60 frames per second. So that's why this is called 60 times per second, because we have 60 frames per second in a game normally. And then you have these two functions, preload. So here is where you will be loading assets. So for example, all the pictures, images, sound, movies, whatever you have, you need to load them. Create, this is the initial setup function. So here is if you want to put the background, you want to load animations, you want to create animations, you want to put players on the map, stuff like that. And all of this is configured, as you can see in this JSON object, that we say the width, the height we want. This is the rendering type. Don't worry about that. Just put it to auto. And the scene. And the scene needs, of course, the preload function, which is empty right now. And this is being referred to here. The create function, the update function, and they are empty now. So let's save this. And if we go back to vanilla boilerplate and we reload, as you can see now, I do have a black square, a black rectangle on the screen. And this rectangle, let me see, this rectangle is being created when we call this, when we create a new game. And this rectangle is 800 by 600. If I do 100 by 100, I go back. As you can see, rectangle now is a square. And by the way, here, let me put BR so that so it is on its own line. And we can put several of these BRs and this is the simplest way to adjust. Ideally, you do this with CSS, but we do it with BR. Okay, like this. So now we have the game. Let me go back to the settings and let's make the game 1200. Or what is the standard size? Like 1920 by 1080? That is the standard, I guess. Yeah. All right. And so when we have this kind of width, I want to put this on the... Let's see, how do I put this? See, this is what you get when we're not editing. You see me tinkering around with stuff. So let me know, by the way, in the comment section, you want me to edit or you don't? Yeah, clearly this game is too big. I cannot work. I need to have the console and I need to have the game. So let's go back to something like, 800 by 600. Yeah, okay, this is. And then I will put this back, guys, on the right. Yeah, this is basically the entire game. I can see the entire game like this. Okay, very, very good. And just to show you, this function is being called all the time, but we don't see it. If you write like this and you refresh, as you can see, this thing is being called all the time. It's being called 60 times per second. So here's where we can move stuff, we can check for collisions, we can do a lot of things here. Okay, very good. We have a game, which is a black screen, fantastic. As you can see in the preload function, they load some assets. So this is how you do it. But because at the moment we have no assets, if you go and you try to visit the site, you see that we have no sky.png in our game. So we need to download some assets somewhere. I recommend this page. It's called gameart2d.com, and you can go to freebies and you can download some free platformer games. So because we're doing Aavegotchi, it's kind of like a ghost. Let's download this zombie and horror games. So you can come here, you can click free download. So please download it. You will get a zip file, which you have to unzip into your game. So in this case, let me just do it like so, and then okay, 1 second, guys. I'll just extract to this folder all files. Let's see what we get here. I just want the PNG, and I just want, yeah, let me copy all of this. Object styles and bg.png, and let's just create a new folder here called assets. We put everything here. So the only things I need in this case is bg.png, tiles, and objects. And the rest we can, yeah, the original folder we can remove. And soon I will show you here, you see that we have the assets folder being registered. And we have a few objects like some signs, some bush, crate, dead bush, tombstone, skeleton. We have the tiles, so we can actually create a game out of this. We can build a world, we can build platforms by using this. And we have a background, bg.png. So we can have a background. The first argument to this function is what we want to refer to this image as in the future in our code. So I want to refer to it as background, and the location of it is in assets folder, and it's called bg.png. So if I save this and I go back, as you can see, I have no error, but also I see no picture. And this is because we have to show this picture by writing this add image and then sky. But in this case, and this is something we do in the create function, because preload is just to load the files and create is where we draw them. So in this case, we say that we want the middle of this image, the middle of the image to be at 400, 300. And this is going to be at the middle of the screen, because the screen is 800 by 600. So if we put this image at 400, 300, it should be placed at the middle of the page. So we refresh, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Very good, actually. Yeah, this is our background. Based on this background, now we can start putting different things, but we can also set scale. If we, for example, want this to be 50% of the size, we can set 0.5, then we refresh, and now it's a bit smaller, and it looks a bit better because the background was too big, but you also can see the black bars on the top here. So maybe 0.55, so it's not too small. Yeah, this is perfect. So we can change the size of an image by writing set scale like this. So next, now that we have the sky up, we can put some more things. For example, maybe some, or actually let's do it later. Later we can put some of this, bones and skeletons. So next, let's create platforms. So as you can see, we create platforms like this. It's just an empty variable to start with. And next we initialize it with physics, because platforms, when the player hits them, they need to react. Or basically, when the player hits a platform, he needs to stay stuck on the platform and not fall through the platform. So that's what we're doing here. When we're saying static group, it means that the platforms themselves are not affected by gravity. What does it mean? When we have our physics engine that Phaser comes with, the physics engine should not pull the platforms down. The platforms are static. The gravity does not affect the platforms, but the gravity should affect the player, so that when the player jumps, he should be pulled back. But the platforms are static. So that's what we mean by that. Next, we need to do these different grounds. So in this case, we need to load also an image that is the ground, which we haven't done yet. Or did they do it in the previous tutorial? 1 second. Oh yeah, they did load some ground. Okay, so let's load something that will represent the ground. Let's do this tile, tile2.png. I just want to copy the name, so I do like this. And this is going to be tile2.png like this. Let's see, not found assets, style 2, not PNG. See, sometimes, oh yeah, it's because it's in tiles. You see assets, and then we have to go to tiles, and then style 2.png. Cannot read add of undefined. Let me remove these things to locate the error. Dot create, let's see. Or does this not work? Okay, good. All right. So now we have the ground. Let's see why this doesn't work. This physics add static group. It's probably because, yeah, I know why. Because we haven't added physics to the config. As you can see here, we need to add physics to the config. Like so. Basically saying that this game, this world that we're building, it has physics. And physics has different types of physics. The different games have different types of physics. So in this game, we have the arcade type, and we say that this arcade type, it should have gravity, and it should have this strength of gravity. But this platform, this ground, will not be affected by gravity because it's static, you remember? So let me refresh. Okay, so now this works, that's good. But we want to add the ground. Like this. Yeah, as you can see, we have the ground right here. Very good. This style, but it's too big. So we need to set scale to 0.2. Refresh. So now it's better size. It's still, now it's too small almost. Let's put to 0.5. So it's 50% of the original image size. Yeah, so this seems about right. The problem is that the collision box has not updated. So if we go back to the physics configuration and we set debug to true and you refresh, you see that the collision box is larger than the tile. And the collision box, which is in blue here, needs to match the tile exactly. Because the collision box is the area that senses touch. So if the collision box does not match the image, the game will look weird, because basically the player will be able to stand on top of this instead of on top of the image. And you see, if I remove set scale and I refresh, it matches perfectly. But when we change the scale, we change the size of an image, we have to also write refresh body in order for the collision box to catch up. So as you can see now, I changed the scale and I write refresh body, and it's all good again. So we can do a few more of this. So let's set to 650, a bit more to the right. 6, it's a bit too close, 670. $665. Okay, good. So let's do a couple of this. And now if I want to put one to the left, it's 435 like this. Because each tile is 65 wide, as you have noticed. So to do another one, we do at 470. Okay, looks pretty good. And now we can also add this. You see these things. But it's if you want to do yourself. On the sides of each platform, you can add these images. Because this is in the middle, this is on the left, this is on the right. So yeah, you can go wild. But for now, let's keep it like this. Looks quite okay. So let's continue with the tutorial. We have gravity, we have debug on in this case. And we did set it to static. And as you can see, this creates a new static group. In arcade physics, there are two types of elements, two types of bodies, dynamic and static. A dynamic body is the one that can be moved around by forces, such as velocity, acceleration, gravity, and so on and so forth. And the static body, it just has a position. So in this case, like I told you, platforms, they're not affected by gravity. So everything looks great here. We've got some lovely platforms, but no one to run and jump on top of them. So we can create a player. Let's create that, but we also need an image of the player, and we don't have that. We have objects. Let's see, do we have some player here? Dead bush. Well, here is where we can go and we can just let's just download an image of the Aavegotchi. And you know, in the final version of this game, the Aavegotchi will actually be fetched from the blockchain. We're gonna add that because it's very easy to do. We have already the player logged in, and we can fetch their Aavegotchi from the blockchain. But in this case, let's see if we can get some Aavegotchi. Let's download this guy. But see, I want a player that is not a square. I mean, this is just a square. This doesn't look like a nice player. What is this? Can I use this? Can I use... Yeah, I don't want a square. I want a player that is... But if we fetch them from the blockchain in the future, it's also going to be a square. Yeah, this one is... There you go. See, this one is not a square. This one... Let's use this. This is our guy. So I will download this image. And I will put him in the assets folder, which is player, like so. All right, so I downloaded this image right here. So this is our player. Let's now load him. As you remember, we need to load all assets, all graphics into preload. Player like this. And like this. Coming back to this. Okay, it's all loaded fine. Let's see. We can create the player like this. Where do they define the player though? Create a new player and add the following code to the create function. Okay, so just like we created platforms up here, let's create the player up here also. Create player there, and then we initialize him here. And in this case, it's called player because we called it player right here. Refresh. Oh, there you go. See, he's affected by gravity because he's not a static group. The player is a sprite, and sprite is basically what you use when you want this dynamic, like characters, monsters, stuff like that. See something interesting. You remember that gravity is now y300. What happens if we put minus 300 and refresh? As you can see, now the gravity is up. If we put x minus 300, now gravity is to the left. So you can play around with gravity. You can change this variable on the fly later on. So if we go like this, yeah. Let's see, this.physics phaser, or is it game? Wait. So we have game. Okay, wait, game.config.physics.arcade. I'm wondering if we can change gravity in real time. Gravity equal to x. If we can bring him back, I've never tried this. Can we bring the guy back if we change it like this? I guess it could work. So is he coming back? Maybe he's coming back now. So this is how you can change gravity. Let's actually reload because I don't know where he is now. He flew away too long. But see, now gravity, he's moving to the right, and I change. Ah, no, it doesn't. Yeah. There's something else we have to do to like make this new setting applicable, but it's for another day. Let's just set the gravity to Y300, which will... This will pull him down. Okay, good. But he's way too large. Okay, so we set the scale and we refresh body again, like this. He even needs to be a bit smaller, maybe like this. Up. Wait. Yeah, now he's too small, so maybe like this. Yeah, this is good size. But now you see he falls somewhere. He needs to fall on these platforms. So let's move him more to the left and let's move him more up. Let's see if this works. Yeah. But he falls through the platform. This is not entirely bueno. Let's see, set bound. Oh. Here, we need to add some more stuff to him. So player now set bound 0.2, set collides with world bounds. Okay, let's see. Will he now... Okay, he still falls through. Let's see if we missed something. Set bounds. They have some animations also. Set gravity. Here. So basically, let me first ensure that this works before I start preaching. There you go. Very good. So basically, we have two groups, you can say. Two groups of physical objects. One is called platforms, another is called player. And platforms is static, we define it here, and then we add a bunch of graphics to this group. A bunch of different elements, and then we create another group which is player, and we need to then say that this group should be able to collide with this group. And this is important because in some cases you don't want some things to collide. Like, for example, if you have a game and you should be able to move through other characters. I'm sure you've played games where it's a multiplayer game and you walk around in the world and you can go through characters without them blocking you. So it's an example where different things should collide with some things, but not with other things. And this is how we define it, that physics add collider, and then we say player platforms, these things, they should collide. Bam. Fantastic, fantastic, guys. I mean, we are game developers. Finally, before we wrap this thing up, let's do cursor. We're soon. So cursors, basically, we init this thing. We say, hey, this variable, it's basically the keys. We listen to the keys, and this is how you do it. This input keyboard create cursor keys. And then in update, here's where we get our knowledge about the update. So basically, each frame, 60 times per second, we need to check. Is the cursor left down? Is right down? Bam, bam. If all of this, do we move the player, somewhere? So let's remove all of these animations, because in our case, we don't have any animation. So we just remove it. But these velocities, we can set. So basically, if left is down, then we push it to the left. Because now that we have physics engine, we can just say this object, push it to the left. And then we apply force and physics engine calculates how it should animate in that direction. It's actually very easy to work like that. Let's see. So now I press left, it moves left. Boom, boom, boom. I press up, it moves up, and then gravity pulls it back down. This is the best thing with physics engine, because we work in terms of forces. So for example, when we push him up, let's see, where do we push him up? Set velocity. So we have down, down, When it's up. Okay. Yep. So when this thing is up, we just push it upwards. We set velocity -3 this thing, okay? We can set it, we can change the jump. So as you can see now, it jumps quite high, but if I refresh now with the new value, it jumps a bit less high. And of course, you can work with this a lot. Let's say we set jump height as a variable. And from the beginning, it is -300. Or actually, from the beginning, let's say it's minus. So we use this variable instead here, jump height. And from the beginning, it's -100, like this. So we jump. As you can see, it's small jump. And you can print this variable, jump height. So you see jump height is -100. If I now set jump height to -500, and I jump, it's high jump. So this is perfect because we can have different power-ups. Let's say he eats a potion and now he can jump like hell. And so as you can see now, when I jump, he hits the roof. He hits the roof of the game. You don't need that. You can remove this, select set collider world bounds. You can refresh. And we jump up. He's very weak, but if I give him power up, we jump up. Now he jumps above the roof. So you can choose what you want. Let's say I want that he can jump above the roof. You can set bounce. As you can see now, if I jump, he jumps and boom, boom, boom. And he bounces a bit. Let's say I want him to bounce a lot. I can set this to 2. So now he will bounce 10 times more. Bam. Okay, he is very bouncy. Let's see. Yeah, now he will go to stratosphere. So you can change how much they bounce. Actually very easy to work with phaser, as you can see. Bam. Now he has very low bounce. So let's put the jump to 300 like we had before. We load it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Very nice, we can move around. And as you can see, we have all of the different forces being illustrated with arrows. And this is because in our physics, you remember that we put debug true. I can set debug false. So debug mode is when you want to see what's actually happening. So now debug is false. As you can see, I don't see anything. Perfect. Now, finally, I want this game only to show up if I'm logged in. So let's end this like this. If we have logged in user, then we can do this. So let's create a function called init or launch. So this function will run when the site loads. I will just do like this because then it means that this function will be called instantly when we load the site. And I can log loading. As you can see here, it says loading. But so what I want to do here is that this game that I have here, let's actually move this down a bit. So game, I don't want it to load if there is no user, okay? So let's actually just load it here like we do now. So when the site loads, we create the game. But if there is no user, if nobody is logged in with Metamask, so I can say like this. If there is no user, I say alert. please log in. Or actually, let me just write to the console. It's gonna be cleaner. With Metamask. And but if there's a user, I can create the game and I can say user.get ETH address. Logged in. All right. So if I refresh this, it says, okay, this is the user and the user is logged in. If I log out and I refresh, as you can see, it just says, please log in with Metamask. And if I log in with Metamask and I refresh, now the game works. So let's just call, oh, so you see launch, we need to call here after we log in. So let's see what happens. So if I log out, it says please log in. I log in. Launch is not, let's see, this thing. Log out. Log in. Okay, so this is not a matter of what's first. It's a matter of... See, I want a way where I can define a function, I can call it instantly, and then I can recall it again in the future. So, one of you told me this way of doing it, but then I cannot call it in the future. So maybe you can educate me more. But anyway, let's do like this. I log out. I refresh, I don't see the game, I log in, I sign in, and the game shows up. And I have logged in user, good. When we log out, I also want to refresh the page, by the way. So, user logged out, and I want to window.reload. Let me first try it. Is it window.reload? No. Window.reload, window.document, Google JavaScript reload page location.reload. I don't know how many times I've Googled this. Yeah, good. So when we log out, we reload. Okay, as you can see, I'm logged in, I log out, oba, I'm logged out. I log in, and the game shows. Bam, guys. This is the first tutorial. In the future, we may expand on it. And the next step, of course, is to take this user and load the specific NFTs that user has, and then show it on the screen. So that's for next time. And then the next thing we also have to do is that the server needs to put more players, so more people can play at the same time. That is coming, guys. Have a good day. See you very, very soon.